Welcome, everybody, here to the Basketball Passport Pod. I am Anthony Irwin, and today on the show, Leigh, this is like we're 48 hours from the start of the NBA season. We're like basically there. It's happening.
Man, it's been a grind to get there, though, I tell you, man, hasn't it? I can't believe, man, media days were about a month ago, and we're just getting to the good stuff now. So, yeah, can't wait. Tuesday night.
Yeah, it's weird. Preseason seems forever while you're in it, but then I'm still somehow surprised that the NBA season is upon us. It is it's a weird dichotomy what's going on there. Today on the show, as we prep you for that NBA season, Leigh and I are going to be giving our season picks. It says award picks there, but I think at the very end of the show, we should finish with our finals pick, like our
Sure.
eventual champion pick.
Okay.
Something that nobody on earth is going to hold us to. So we'll do that. As we are talking, the WNBA fifth game, the deciding game is underway between the Minnesota Lynx and the New York Liberty. That has been a phenomenal series. So we're going to talk about that and about that game. Staying in New York, we're going to be talking about Mikal Bridges' jumper, which looks frankly broken, like in almost like Markelle Fultzian ways.
Yeah, it's on a time delay.
Yeah. Yes. And then we're going to be talking about, we'll look back on the preseason that was and give our two favorite stories from the preseason to this point. I'm going to be giving, I don't know if they're going to be weekly or even regular, but I have power rankings to start us off with. And then we are going to tease Thursday's destination episode, where with where we will be going and some of the content and the conversations to come from that. Last destination was Zagreb in Croatia, and featured two of the absolute best stories that you will hear. So I hope you have checked out that episode as well. Leigh, how are you holding up, though? You ready for the NBA season?
Yeah, I think so. I was down at the Hawks game on, I can't remember even what night it was now, against the 76ers last week, and it was good. Obviously no Joel Embiid, he's not playing out there, but good to get a good look at Tyrese Maxey, although even he's banged up too. Paul George got injured in that game. So it's quite interesting because I think on paper, Philadelphia is, again, very good team. I think Daryl Morey's had a very good summer, but they've got to get on the court, and I think that's obviously going to be the biggest challenge for Philadelphia right now. Paul George has he's injury prone. Joel Embiid said basically this week he's probably never going to play back-to-backs for the rest of his career. And their young stud, Tyrese, he's the one who, could be his team, theoretically by the end of this season. Now, he's only got, I think, a thumb contusion, they were saying. So I don't expect him to miss much time, if any at all. I think it's more they just decided, because he picked that up against Orlando, that he's not going to play anymore in the preseason. But, yeah, it's good. It's exciting as well being here in Atlanta with the number one pick, Zachary Sachet. I think he's had a very impressive preseason, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing him close up in his first NBA season. So yeah, it's exciting to be back in the NBA world in this sense, because I took a couple of years sort of stepping away from it.
Yeah. To
get back into it now, the juices are back and flowing, and exciting. Trying to sort of get back into it and rediscover the spark.
They are not in the finals. That is not a team that is currently in the finals. The Sparks, they are
yes.
They are very they're going through it as a franchise. But the actually that's a great thing to offer up to listeners and viewers here, is that you will be at a lot of those Atlanta games and you will be getting sound bites there from those Atlanta players. Some of those clips might make their way onto the passport page, depending on the subject matter. I also, as part of my this offseason, I signed with Clutch Points, and I'm doing I'm their senior Lakers insider. Senior just because I'm old. But I will be doing a lot of I've already started doing a lot of reporting, a lot of writing on them. And part of the package there is that I live here in Texas. So I will be spending some time at the occasional Mavs game, the occasional Spurs game, the occasional Houston Rockets game whenever the Lakers are in town. So I will be offering up some of that stuff too. So we'll have you guys covered. I'm really excited for this NBA season. It's the NBA has really kind of welcomed it with open arms, the notion of parity. And I'm really fascinated to see if they continue going down this path and how well they execute that path.
Well, that's the biggest challenge. I mean, I think, when we had 4 straight years of Warriors and Cavs, if you get there through going through some serious battles and they are just the 2 best teams, it's fine. But it sort of felt going into those seasons, it was like, how can you seriously make a case for anybody else? Especially when KD joined the Warriors. It was like, this team is too good. And then LeBron, it just felt, the Raptors were one of the biggest, threats to the Cavs, and LeBron didn't even really respect them or consider them. And the Celtics started to, but it was when Tatum and Brown were still very young. So we had a couple of those seasons. This year, it does feel like you can really make a pretty strong case for 6 to 8 teams. I mean, things have got to break right. Things have got to go their way. But that's what Greg Popovich always says. You need a little bit of luck along the way, even when you are the favorite. So that's what's, I think, important right now for the NBA is to go into the season, earnestly believing a lot of teams have a chance to go all the way. And the fact that it's at 5 years straight now, we've had a different champion, I think is reflective of that.
It's not only that they've gotten 5 different champions, it's that the team that won the championship the last 5 years hasn't even gotten out of the second round.
Yeah.
It's just it's a very different time in the NBA. And this new CBA is only going to push them further in that direction. Let's talk about awards picks, and let's talk about what this season might look like on an individual basis. Starting with MVP. I feel like for the last 5 years or so, Luka has always been kind of the consensus favorite to win it. Obviously, Jokic was on an incredible run too. For some reason, people keep forgetting about Giannis Antetokounmpo in this conversation, which is crazy to me, given the impact that he has on both sides of the court compared to those other 2 guys. Do you have who's your preseason MVP pick?
It's a great one because, of course, for what I do, the basketball passport, the international stuff, I mean, we've had 6 straight MVPs of non-US born players. In fact, the top 3 haven't even been US born players here for a few years. So it's quite interesting in that respect that for a long time, especially when I was on the starters there, we sort of joked like, should there be a best international player award? And now it's turned the other way where it's like, should there be a best American award player? Because the thing is, if you look at the odds makers for this season, I mean, it's the same thing is showing up again there, where you've got Slovenia, Canada with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Serbia, Greece, and it's not until you get to Anthony Edwards there at number 5 as the most likely American to come through and win the award. So it's once again heavily favored that it will be an international award. I'm going with Luka. I sort of feel that, he was close last season, the Mavericks making the finals, the expectations are there. But the thing about him is he handles expectation. Luka has not let us down at all. He in fact seems to thrive in those moments. You think of that Game 7 against the Phoenix Suns a couple of years ago where he just absolutely cooked them. And then last season against the Minnesota Timberwolves on the Netflix series, Anthony Edwards has got a great story how Luka was just coming down, just lighting them up to win and advance. Now, obviously, they came up short in the finals, but it sort of feels like to me that Luka's in that position where I think things are going to favor him, because I think things like Nikola Jokic winning 3 out of the last 4, I think that now does start to weigh against him a little bit, that people are going to start judging him a little more harshly than they have in the past. I think with Giannis as well, that's a fun one.
That happened last year.
Yeah, I mean, he still won it, but that's what.
Okay, no.
I mean, but that's what happens though. Is like, he won the championship, so it was validated. Then to go out the way they did last season, I think that just counts against him. I mean, I think Jokic is, of course, in the top, 2 or 3 players in the league, But in terms of winning this award, I think there's going to be a bit of a shift towards a Luka or Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, for one of those two guys. Because the Thunder, by the way, I mean, a lot of odds makers have them finishing no lower than second in the Western Conference. So that's, by default, that's 55 to 60 wins right there. And I think the Mavericks are going to be right there too. So I will take Luka, but again, I'm really intrigued and fascinated by just how many guys have a legitimate chance. Anthony Edwards is my pick for the American to finish in the top, 4 or 5. I just think, I love his swagger. I love the way he plays. He's explosive. He's dynamic. It's clearly his team now, even though it was largely his team last season. But now that he's undisputed that he is going to have that role and as the franchise guy. Julius might try to take a few possessions off him on the offensive end, but I can see, it seems crazy to say, but I can see another breakout year here from Anthony Edwards, because I think he's going to take his game to another level. But ultimately, Luka is my pick.
Did you see? I saw there was some like preseason poll. I think it was actually the actual NBA account that sent it out. There's like 3 breakout candidates, and John Morant was one of them. And he was like, breakout?
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah.
We might need to we might need to make official titles for what a breakout actually is.
Yeah. Well, I think that's they used to have comeback player of the year, and they changed that to most improved. So, because Ja, it feels like we haven't seen him, because we haven't. He obviously had the suspension and then the injury last season. So I just hope he can stay healthy. So far, I have to say, in the preseason, he didn't look like he'd lost any of that bounce in his in his leap, and his athleticism was still there. So that's exciting. And of course, the Grizzlies, remember, they finished second 2 seasons ago in the standings. Last season was a complete disaster for them, but they had so many injuries. So they're one of those teams that I guess is a bit of an outsider, a bit of a dark horse just on what we saw last season. But if everyone's healthy, they should be pretty good.
I'm going to go with Ant. I really think this is lined up pretty well for him. I think Luka would be my is probably the easiest pick here. Let's go. But he's plus 330 to take it home right now. Ant at plus 900. If you wanted kind of a long shot to have a little bit of a fun run with, I think Ant makes the most sense because of everything that you talked about. I think going into the season, people are a little bit lower on Minnesota because of the trade. I think like talent wise, they got a little bit worse, but fit wise, like we'll kind of see what that looks. I think Dante is really going to help him because that backcourt with him and Ant, and let alone with McDaniels there too, like on the perimeter, I don't know how anybody's going to score on that trio when it comes down to it from the perimeter.
Yeah.
So I think.
Did you see how he went against Jalen Brunson too? Like, just he loves the battle.
Jalen's dad.
Yeah. No. How Edwards went against him in that. There was a little one-on-one battle there, and he was like, that's what Anthony Edwards likes. Like he thrives on that defensive battle there where he's going to get into it. So he's young, he's got that energy, he's going to play both ends of the floor, and that's certainly going to help his case. And I think as well, people are cheering for him. They want to see him, and they want to see the American come back and reclaim that award, because I think that's also a huge part of the pride, of course, for the NBA players, that they haven't had an American win this award for so long.
That's part of the math I'm doing here, is that it's a largely American voting base. I think the league would like to see Anthony win it and really kind of vault himself up to the face of the league as LeBron kind of steps away and as Steph kind of falls, exit stage left as well. I don't know. It just seems like one of those things that, and I think it'll be a hot debate, as it always is for these things, but I think Ant is my pick for that one. How about defensive player of the year? Or do you I don't think we have a very good understanding of defense in these things. I don't really love the way that we vote on them, but how do you see this playing out?
I would put all my money in the world on Wembanyama winning it this season. Yeah, I just think so. He's going to have the numbers. He's going to have the highlights. He's going to have the impact. And Rudy, I think, is going to struggle to win another one of those awards again, because he's just not loved, and he's won 4 of them already. But again, Victor is going to earn it. I think he's going to have such an impact because he's got those great instincts. For one, he can obviously block a shot from anywhere. He can steal the ball. And one of the most impressive things, which again, we never really understand how to categorize or staticize this is that intimidation of players where a guy will drive into the lane, see Wembanyama and just say, well, I'm just kicking it out to someone for a three. Now, there's no stat. Yeah, I mean, there's no stat that says, hey, Wembanyama changed your mind and forced you to pass it out and the other guy shoots the three. But that's the sort of presence that he's going to have out there. So I think this season it's all teed up for him. I think he's a little bit premature, of course, for winning the MVP award, but we saw last season he's not afraid to go after it. He's going to block shots. He's going to get a ton of steals. So the counting stats will be there. That how the Spurs go, of course, will be a factor, but I think you're going to see throughout the season the splits of when he's on the court and when he's on the bench are going to be gigantic differences, I think, in San Antonio's defense. So those sorts of things are going to favor him. And I would say he's, of all the awards that we're going to pick, that's probably the one I'm the most confident in, that Wembanyama is going to pick up his first DPOY.
So here's my issue there. And this is kind of why I started by talking about like how I don't love how we do this, because I don't think the Spurs are going to be good enough defensively to, like, normally the winner of the defensive player of the year is like the best defender on an elite defense. That's why Rudy keeps on winning him, even though we like tend to ignore sometimes, like last year in Minnesota, we just ignored how good the other defenders were around Gobert. And we tend to overlook the types of defenders who hold together entire defenses with like some, very heavily used duct tape and a bunch of like fishing string and fishing wire. So I do kind of wonder if San Antonio is going to be good enough defensively and just as a team for Wemby to win this. But it was crazy. Like, I have a Little Tykes basket in my house for my kids. And I live out here in Austin, and my son went to go shoot a basket, and Wemby came out of nowhere and swatted it to hell. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. So
yeah.
I'm with you as far as like the impact he's actually going to have. I don't necessarily know if the circumstances are going to allow it. And because of what we talked about a second ago with Minnesota's perimeter defense, Minnesota might be a historically great defense this year.
Yeah.
And if Gobert is the anchor of it again, then they're going to, I think, give him that one again.
Yeah. But, everything you're saying is accurate, except that Wembanyama finished second last year, and the Spurs were not very good. So he's already got that sort of attraction and that appeal. And, he could average 3.5 blocks and 2.5 steals a game as well, just because he's so active and he gets his hands into everything. And of course, Greg Popovich and the Spurs, their whole system is bought and built on defense. So it's going to be fascinating to see. I mean, everything so far we've seen from Wembanyama, he's obviously put on a little bit of weight. He's gotten bigger. He looked great in the preseason game that he played there. I mean, he's ready to break out. Maybe he can be the breakout.
Another breakout. This episode's going to be the breakout
episode. So, look, you never know, of course, there's so many voters and people value things differently. Some people just look at the numbers and say, well, he had a huge impact because he got these stats. Others evaluate it slightly differently. I mean, Rudy is a fantastic defender. Whether you love him or hate him, he's an impactful defender.
Oh, yeah.
But again, I feel once you've won 4 of them and you're just not loved, I just think it becomes harder for you to still have that impact on those awards. But I mean, the French cleaning up the 1 and 2 last season, they may very well do it again this season, because I think Rudy will still get some respect, but I'm just not sure he'll get that automatic respect, especially if those other perimeter defenders for the Wolves clearly improve as well.
I'm contractually obligated to say this, but I think it's ridiculous that Anthony Davis never figures into these conversations, because he's being asked to carry singularly hold together a defense with a 40-year-old LeBron James, who can be described at times as a DH,
Yep.
D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, who has squirrel syndrome sometimes and just runs off in the wrong direction. And the Lakers were like a mediocre defense last year, despite all of that going on.
Yeah.
And by the way, they were doing that when Darvin Ham wasn't like game planning for individual teams, according to the guys who played for him. So I don't think he'll figure into those conversations again, because again, the Lakers are going to be bad on defense, in aggregate. But for him and like for Bam, I think he gets some of this too.
Yeah.
Again, I just don't think we, and I say a collective we, basketball fans don't quite understand defense enough for this award to exist and go to the right guys year in, year out.
Yeah. Well, Bam third and Anthony Davis did finish fourth last season, but obviously it was a distant fourth. Look, I think Anthony Davis as well, in his younger days, I thought he was, super aggressive defensive player, getting a lot of blocks. He has to manage his, his workload a little differently now. He certainly is the anchor of that Lakers defense because, they're leaky.
Anchor, the boat, the engine, the rudder, the sail. He's like those little tiny ships that they use to get off of the boat when it starts sinking. He's the whole thing. All right. Sixth man of the year. This is a fun one. This is a fun one because I think these teams are getting deeper and deeper and deeper by way of this new CBA.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with the hometown pick, Bogdan Bogdanovic. I'm guessing he's coming off the bench. I'm actually going to ask Coach Quinn Snyder about that tomorrow or Tuesday if he's decided. I think he's probably going to stick with that. He came off the bench last season, shot the ball really well, really played that role fantastically because last season, of course, they had DeJounte Murray, Trey, DeAndre Hunter starting. So I think it just suited Bogdan to come off the bench where he can get a little bit more burn. He can run the offense a little, but he can get out there and shoot. So I think he's, really, really good at that role. And it's one of those ones that if you are the sort of player who embraces that role and are not bothered by, not starting, then you can really, really dominate and thrive in that position. So I think the Hawks starters this year are going to be Trey, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, DeAndre Hunter, and Clint Capella. And then it's going to be Risa Shea coming off the bench with Bogdan Bogdanovic. But Bogdan can almost be Serbian Bogdan in that sense, where handles the ball a little bit more, has sort of complete control. He doesn't have to share with Trey. He doesn't have to wait. He can be a great catch and shoot guy. He can also run the offense as he needs to. So I expect he will be coming off the bench. I look forward to seeing him, embrace it and thrive in it. And again, I think he's a fantastic player. I can see him averaging, 17, 18 points a game, shooting the ball well. He's such an important player for the Hawks. So he's my pick. This one's always one of those ones that, who knows which direction it could go. There could be some guy who surprised you, but I know it usually goes to whoever scores the most points. That seems to be just like whoever scores the most points, you're the sixth man of the year. That's the only real prerequisite for winning this award. Never comes into it about, what's this guy doing defensively? What role is he playing? Because it's the Jamal Crawford award where he just come out and just start firing away, averaging 18, 20 points a game. And that's usually enough. Lou Williams, another guy who's done it a few times in that same role.
So I actually think that trend will be bucked a little bit this year with my pick. There's some talk that Josh Hart might come off of the bench for New York. I think he might be the first player ever, Lee, to come off of the bench and play 48 minutes a night. It might happen. I think he's going to be asked to do a little bit of everything. We saw him last year. He means so much to New York. He's going to get the New York bump, too, which is a thing. I think Josh Hart is my pick this year. Is somebody who is going to do. New York is going to be really good this year too. Now we'll talk about Mikal in a little bit, and if he continues to struggle shooting the ball, maybe he winds up moving to the bench too.
Yeah,
as he figures out his shooting issues. But if Josh comes off of the bench enough, I think it's a decent possibility that he takes it home this year.
He'll be the first guard forward center to win the award too.
When I was coaching, this was back when I was coaching my younger brother's team. He had this kid come on, and he comes up and he tells me, he goes, "Coach, I can't wait to play for you, Coach. I'm really excited to play this season." I was like, "Okay, great. What position do you play?" He's like, "A little bit of everything. I'm a power guard. I'm a power forward. I'm a power center." I'm like, "Have you ever seen basketball before?" He's like, "Nope."
Man.
I'm like, "Awesome, excellent."
I remember Joey Graham. I don't know if you remember him from, he played for the Raptors. I think he went to the Nuggets as well. Super athletic guy, like more like a track athlete than a basketball player. But a fringe guy for the Raptors coming off the bench, and like most players though, when he was interviewed, like I think it was either the start of the season or early in, they said, "What's your best position?" He said, "I can play 1 through 5, man. Could be a point guard, shooting guard, small forward, power forward, center. I can do it all." I was like, wow, that's the Josh Hart. Josh Hart, imagine he might just log the most minutes
ever for a bench
ever.
player.
Yeah, ever. It could be ever. In the end, we should find out whoever's played the most minutes in one season. It's probably someone like Luol Deng.
Well, I think Wilt averaged 48.5 minutes a season.
Yeah, right. I'm thinking more of the sort of modern era. Like it would have to be Joakim Noah or Luol Deng, maybe even Ben Gordon there for the Bulls. Someone who played for Tibbs anyway is going to hold that record.
Tibbs needs to be stopped, man. He almost killed Luol Deng.
Yeah.
All right, let's quickly do Coach of the Year and we'll really quickly do Coach of the Year. This one's tough. It always has everything to do with experience, expectations.
Yeah,
it's why Pop has basically never won. It's why Phil Jackson, I don't think ever won.
I think Phil won it once.
Okay,
yeah.
But I think they both have won.
I think Pop's won it a couple of times.
Yeah. But it always goes to the coach. It's why there was for a little while there was the Coach of the Year curse.
Yeah,
where
that's right.
The team that won the guy who won that award wound up getting fired the next year. Is there anybody that you have highlighted right now? I honestly I couldn't even pick one because it all comes down to which team surprises.
Yeah, I mean Mark Daigneault last year for the Thunder. You know what? It's a tough one to pick. I think the Celtics, though, are probably going to have a very, solid season again, 57, 58 wins. And it's almost like, let's just give it to Joe Mazzulla. He's the champion right now. He does, it's like, well, why not just give it to him? He's got the best record. His team's going to be very consistent again. The Celtics, it's so weird that they won the championship. It doesn't feel like they're just, the clear favorite going into this season, even though they haven't really, there's no reason to think they won't be any better. Brown and Tatum are still very young. Brown looks incredibly, in the best shape of his life. Tatum looks like he's put on a bit of beef as well. So I think I'm just going to take the low-hanging fruit there and say Joe Mazzulla. I think he's going to get it because the Celtics are just going to be sort of continuing to roll on from where they ended last season.
In my book, it's not Darvin Ham. It's JJ Redick's going to win it simply for doing his job. All right, last one here is Executive of the Year. These ones, I think it probably the favorite probably going in would have to be Leon Rose for pulling off the cat trade right before the season. Normally, it's if their season goes well, it's whoever makes the biggest move and also has a good season.
Yeah, that's probably the smartest pick right now because the Knicks had a very good season last year, but clearly needed to upgrade. They get Bridges, who is an incredible defender and can really spread the floor and become a three-point shooter. They're hoping for that anyway.
Hopefully.
They gave up a few picks to get him, but that was the right thing to do, I think, because they're in a win now mode, and they saw what happened. They ran out of gas a little bit, but they still needed to improve. And then of course the Towns trade puts him in the front, in the box office, box seat there to win this award. So the Knicks go in with expectations, rightly so, and we'll see how it can play out. Because I tell you, man, it's a pretty fun team to watch actually when they're at their best too. So I'm firmly in the position that the NBA is much better when the Knicks are good. I think it's great because you want teams to go to New York and feel like it's a tough place to win, and you want those fans going crazy. and it just makes it so much more fun than when teams will just walk in there and blow out the Knicks easily. I don't find that interesting at all. I think Madison Square Garden has to be just
rocking
every single night. I mean, you see it in the playoffs. It's amazing. So I hope the Knicks do well. I think they will do well, but we'll see.
Also the Knicks.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I think the biggest factor there with what you're talking about, like the league is better when the Knicks are good. I think the same can be said about the Lakers too, is that they're on TV regardless. Like they are going to be on national TV regardless.
Yes.
And if like, those games that happen every week or every couple weeks or whatever, that those teams are on national TV, if it is played with the backdrop of a Staples Center that is going nuts, or a Madison Square Garden that is going nuts, or a TD Bank North, like if they like those teams that have those that are always on TV anyway.
Yeah.
If they are good, that's why people say, yeah, the league is more fun when those teams are good.
Absolutely. And it is the same with the Lakers. I want to see the Lakers like in the hunt for the top 4 from the start of the season. You want people to go like, "Oh my God, is JJ going to do it? Is he going to unlock the Lakers and not have them scrapping for the play-in tournament?" You want it's much better for the league when those teams are like that and they're playing well, and the rest of the league is like, man, going to Staples or Crypto or Madison Square Garden, it's a tough place to play.
Yeah. I'm my pick here is a funny one. So Rob Pelinka didn't win executive year, the year that he traded for Anthony Davis and then went on to win a championship. Didn't win it that year. He's not particularly popular in the exec, because I think those are the guys who actually vote for the award. Or
they are. That's right. Yeah.
And he just is never up for it. But it would be funny if, Dalton Connect is incredible and the Lakers have this miraculous season, and the season that he didn't do anything really in the summer, that's the year he wins the executive of the year. That's the crazy person in me is rooting for that.
Wow, Dalton and Bronny, man, they lit it up. Well, not on the same night, but Dalton's game against Phoenix, though, man, well, that's a nice looking stroke he's got. I mean,
yeah,
man, that's fine. I mean, obviously, it is a preseason, completely meaningless game in the grand scheme of things. But when you're that player trying to just attract the attention and crack the rotation, you can't do much more than rattle off 20 points straight, and some of those shots he hit were pretty nice. So,
yeah,
and then Bronny up in Golden State the next night again. What else could he do? They got smacked by 60, but he had a decent game. So he's not going to be in the rotation early on, if at all. But he couldn't do much more than what he had to do in that last game, which was a back-to-back, oddly enough. A back-to-back on the road in the preseason.
Preseason road back-to-back.
So they went to Milwaukee, Phoenix.
And a preseason road back-to-back. What's funny is because most of these teams, like their preseasons are basically, they put together their preseasons. They put their, like, it's not a league mandated, it's not a league planned out thing, and the Lakers somehow screwed themselves with their preseason schedule.
Wow,
incredible.
Yeah,
executive of the year, Rob Pelinka. All right, so let's move on and talk a little bit about the WNBA Finals 5th game that I believe is still going on.
It is.
I'm going to start here before we even get to the actual game itself. Next year there should be 7 games. I think
they've already said there is going to be a 7-game series. Yeah.
Okay. 5 games for a championship is not right, especially when the sport has grown leaps and bounds the way it has this year.
Well, and seeing things like Sabrina Ionesco's Game 3 winner, which was just a bomb, which was incredible. She nearly did it in Game 4 too. Was a little bit off, but she's 0 for 11 right now. But the Liberty are up by 3. Over the Lynx. They were down by 7, I think, at halftime. They're now up by 3, so it's been a 10-point turnaround, and so that's going to be pretty crazy to see what happens here to finish it off. But it's fun, man. It's fun basketball. It's great to see the crowds packed in their, super competitive games. And, the WNBA in the last 3 or 4 seasons especially, I think, has been really, really engaging to watch because, you're seeing some rivalries, you're seeing some tension, you're seeing some drama, and then you're seeing, super high quality basketball at the money end of the season. And it's really, really awesome to watch.
Yeah, I think they're heading towards expansion. They've already announced the Golden State Valkyries that is happening there, and I think they can continue to expand as well. The postseason bracket can expand as well, and next year I think Caitlin Clark will and the Indiana Fever will factor a little bit more heavily into the postseason as she continues to get better. It's kind of interesting with the Las Vegas Aces kind of taking a step back, and opening things up for Minnesota Lynx to step in, and it's a fascinating league. The basketball has been fantastic, and the entire sport of women's basketball is just growing at such incredible rates that they're really in line for some cool stuff.
And they got the big TV deal as well, so there's more money coming in. They've got their own private charter planes as well now, which was a huge step up too, which is great to see. I'm just following the score. I don't have the TV in this room here. Liberty is still up by a point here, but Brianna Stewart and Sabrina combined 3 for 23, 0 for 6 from downtown, but they're up by a point, so who cares at this point? But that's the thing with Sabrina. She's so much fun to watch. If the game comes down to another, last minute shot, she's going to want it in her hand and she's not going to be afraid to take it.
Yep. That's the Kobe mentality, right?
That's absolutely.
All right. Let's talk about Mikal Bridges' shot really quickly here. And it is just, it's crazy to see. I'll let you line up the clips and play them in the order that you want here.
Yeah, well, so this is these first two are from the last Knicks Wizards game in the preseason.
It's Bridges,
and you can see here, like,
step back jumper.
That's a clunker.
Thought about the three, looking for Tyler Kolek, the rookie.
And then this one as well. He's got all the time in the world, and that's another clunker
Butler
from the baseline there. Mikal Bridges used to be really, really smooth to watch. I remember, on those Phoenix Suns teams where he would get out and he'd just shoot with confidence. I've actually got some clips here. I'm going to talk over them. Here he is in the corner. That was from Chris Paul. So this is a couple of years ago. Of course, he played for the Brooklyn Nets last season. But the reason I pointed out the Suns ones is because I think that's where he just looked his most comfortable in that role and was such a valuable contributor. One of the top 3-point shooters from the corner in the league there in Phoenix. So I have no idea what has gone on with his shot, but it's gone from being so smooth and rhythmic as it was there in Phoenix to, from what we've seen so far for the New York Knicks, herky-jerky, like he's almost hesitating. He's stopping before he's releasing. It's not flowing sort of through his body and out of his fingertips. He's getting to that point where it's like he's stopping and then he's starting again. So he has said he's worked on different, variations of his shot over the years. But I find it very strange for a guy at this stage of his career to be regressing, when he's going to be in a role there with the Knicks, where I think he's going to get a ton of looks. And they didn't bring him in just for his incredible defense. They need him hitting those shots and taking, being a release valve there for Jalen Brunson, and when Towns gets doubled and when there are other guys on the floor there who aren't as good, they need Bridges to do it. So, I mean, I hope he can fix it, but I've got to be honest, it's pretty concerning what I've seen so far.
I wonder if it's an ode to Marcus Camby. He got to the Knicks and just like, all right, because I'm telling you, the mind does incredible things and terrifying things on athletes. Famously, Chuck Knobloch forgot how to throw from second base to first because of the yips that he developed. Markelle Fultz's shot when he was at Washington had a beautiful shot. It wasn't like he wasn't going to be Ray Allen or anything like that, but he elevated well. It was smooth. The release on it was well timed. It looked like he knew what he was doing. And then he gets drafted and develops such a severe hitch in his shot that I think he's even said that there was a psychological factor there too. And I think anytime I see a player, it looks like it's a basketball version of Charles Barkley's golf swing,
Yeah,
and
it
Charles
is.
has said that like he like swings one way when the cameras aren't rolling and swings another way when they are. And if it is a case of the yips, that's really difficult to get over.
Yeah, well, and Ben Simmons, you just have to look at Ben Simmons.
Yeah.
I mean, Ben Simmons' first summer league, his shot was pretty nice, and he was hitting fadeaways and he was hitting long range shots. He's another one where it just feels like they forget how to shoot, and shooting a basketball is the first fundamental we all learn, because that's how you fall in love with the game. You hit a shot, you want to hit a few more, and then as you progress, you realize what your strengths are, and some people can shoot and others can't, but you can still be an effective player. But Bridges, I think for me as well, what I remember about him, especially again on the Suns, was just the confidence he had, where he looked for his shot. He was hitting those off the dribble. He was getting to his spots, and that shot was just so silky smooth. And so at what point did he decide to change it? Where did the confidence go? How will it come back? But whatever it is, I would, be working with him to say, you've just got to get it back to at least looking smooth and not having that little hitch in it. He's kind of, he's got these really long arms, and he never had necessarily the most perfect form, but he at least had something that worked for him. But now it looks like he's, for whatever reason, given up on that form, or someone has tried to, change it, like a golf swing, like you mentioned there with Charles Barkley. And now he's almost forgotten what it was like before. So we'll see, of course, once the season starts for real. And, he went 0 for 10 the other night, so that's not good. Again, it's only preseason, but shooting is very much about rhythm and confidence. And he doesn't really seem to have either of those, because those ones I showed you too from the Wizards game, I mean, they were bricks, not just like, man, his shot's not dropping tonight. It was like they were real clunkers. So I'm excited. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a great player. I think he's one of those really impactful players. When the Suns traded him, I mean, look, you're getting Kevin Durant. You've got to be prepared to give up a player like that. But I think the Suns really missed him as well, defensively, and just being, again, like when you got Paul and Booker out there, it's like you need that other guy who's that comfortable in that role of being the third best player, but being really, really valued. And so they miss him. So I think he's a great pickup for the Knicks. I think he'll be okay. I hope he can turn it around. But certainly it was a concern seeing the way he shot in the preseason.
Yeah, and the thing that here too is you saw those shots get progressively more open.
Yes.
And if teams start shading off of him and continues down this path, it's a tough combination. I'm really pulling for him, like you are. I really like Mikal as a player. He's, I think, one of one of those few like perfect modern 3-and-D type players that every team is just like really looking for. That's why the Knicks gave up all the draft capital that they did. We'll just see if he turns it around.
Yeah. And, the way he handled the trade too, I thought was really cool. He was on a, NBA Finals team there in Phoenix, and he gets traded to a team that's, in the opposite direction in the rebuild phase in Brooklyn. And he was like, man, listen, I get it. This is the way the league is. This is the business side of it. And I thought he accepted that, and he was out there to work. And now he's on another team that has championship aspirations.
Yep. All right, preseason is over, finally, and we are again 48 hours or so from the NBA's official tip-off. But I do think it's worth it. There are some really cool human stories here in the preseason. There always are, as you watch these guys, pursue their dreams. There's a couple players who were signed later in the preseason who we're going to be talking about. Leigh, I'll let you take it away here with Yuki.
Yeah, Yuki Kawamura, the Japanese player, has signed a 2-way contract with the Memphis Grizzlies, which is really, really cool for him. He is very small. If you don't know who he is, he's only 5'8", and he looks at. He played for Japan in the Olympics, And so, I'm excited for him to get a chance in that two-way slot there. So he may spend obviously a little bit of time in the G League, but I thought he played really, really some nice minutes in the preseason, had some great passes, and very happy that he's got a chance here because, he's coming from a country of Japan where there hasn't been a ton of NBA talent over the years. Rui, of course, is there, and Yuta Watanabe as well. So exciting for a young guy, only small in stature, but he's got that competitiveness in him, and you've already seen it. He's a feisty guy, and I'm excited for him. So listen, the Grizzlies should be a fun team to watch again, as we said earlier, if they're all healthy. And he could be one of those guys that's a bit of a fan favorite. I think he's going to come out there and just be all energy, all effort when he does play off the bench. And exciting times for Japanese basketball.
Yeah, I really loved watching him on defense because he is really good with angles, works his butt off, is just kind of everywhere. My pick here for my favorite preseason storyline is somebody who made his impact on the offensive side of the ball. I obviously paid close attention to him here covering the Lakers, but Quincy Olivari is this is the picture that he tweeted out when it was leaked, when it was reported, when I reported that he was going to be signing or being converted to a two-way contract with the Lakers. The Lakers wound up waiving Colin Castleton to bring him in. They're still waiting to figure out if they're going to be able to, if Christian Coloco is going to be cleared for basketball activities. But Olivari, my favorite thing about him is that like he makes no gripes whatsoever, saying like, I'm a giant LeBron fan. I'm a giant Steph Curry fan. Actually got a little emotional about the opportunity to play there with Steph Curry and how cool that was. Steph tweeted about it and put it on his Instagram after the fact. And then I think gave him another shout out when he was, converted to that two-way deal.
Yeah.
Now he is joining a very crowded backcourt in with the South Bay Lakers. They have Jalen Hood-Schifino, they have Bronny James, and now Olivari joins there. I think he's the best player of the three right now. Jalen Hood-Schifino had a injury riddled and then just not very productive rookie season. Didn't look good in Vegas or in training camp or in preseason to this point. Bronny James, I think, is another one of those players who's a couple years away from being a couple years away.
Yeah.
Olivari was making his impact on a legitimate NBA court, playing against some legitimate NBA talent out there on a couple occasions. Really happy for him though. I just love seeing guys, put themselves out there. I love seeing people put themselves out there, personally chase their dreams. And then when those types of people, put the work in and have it work out for them, that's just my favorite kinds of stories.
Man, that post-game presser you talk about there as well, man, like when he was tearing up. I mean, how could you not tear up listening to him?
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. All right, let's really quickly here go through my my week one power rankings where everybody is tied 1 through 30 because nobody has played a game yet. All right, let's Leigh, I'm going to get out of the way here and let you tease us for our destination for Thursday's destination episode.
Yes, so we talked about the signing there for the Grizzlies, and on Thursday we are going to go to Tokyo, one of my favorite destinations I have been to, where I played at Yoyogi Park here a couple of times. There's the balls I play with my man Toshiro in the middle there with the sneakers. He won those for MVP. Japan is, I'm surprised, we haven't seen more NBA players. They are exceptionally talented and passionate about basketball out there. They're super athletic. They've got the facilities and the infrastructure. So I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen more of a splash and an overflow into the NBA. And also it's the place, Japan, when Rui Hachimura was on the Washington Wizards, Fred Katz, the great writer there at the Athletic, was covering the Wizards, and he and Scott Brooks were apparently very, very popular in Japan. Scott Brooks was seen as a fatherly figure. And then Fred, just because Fred was covering the team, he was adored as well by the Japanese. So I spoke to Fred the other day. We'll have more of that on Thursday. I'll see if I can get Fred to come on and see if he wants to talk about it more, because it was quite hilarious how he told the story. And I remember a few years ago when Rui was there, and Fred and Scott Brooks were so adored in Japan. It was great. But if you've never been to Japan, it is an incredible country. Oh my God, it's a fascinating country. Incredible food. It's as clean as anything. It's orderly. It's efficient. It's a fantastic place to go. And like I say, this basketball game, I've played twice out there, and man, it was fun. So I'm really excited to talk about my travels to Tokyo.
I can't wait to hear about it. Before we get out of here, Leigh, we got to give our championship pick, our champion pick. Who are you taking on as we embark on this 2024-2025 campaign?
Look, I think Denver's going to be much better than they were last season. Jamal Murray, there's a real sort of cloud over him at the moment about his health and just whether or not he's able to step up. But I sort of feel that the Nuggets are going to be, last season was like a bit of a sort of like they almost got a bit complacent maybe in the playoffs and thought because they beat the Wolves the season before, they were going to just wipe the floor with them. Went to 7 games, but lost at home, lost 3 games at home. I think Jokic is just, again, such a dominant, powerful player. I love, Porter Jr. there as well, and Jamal. I think Michael Malone's an incredible coach. So I'm going to take the Nuggets. I think we're going to see them come back and bounce back. I mean, I picked Doncic to win the MVP, and I think that's still true, because I think the Mavs are going to have a good season. I just don't think the Mavs, though, overall are better than the Nuggets, even with Clay there. I think Denver's almost like, oh, we got to lock in again and go back. So I'll take the Nuggets over the Bucks. I think I've picked the Nuggets and the Bucks in the finals for probably about 4 of the last 5 years. So I think it's going to happen this year, even though, again, the Celtics are great. But I think Giannis is we're due to see another Giannis crazy season. So Nuggets and Bucks, and the Nuggets win it.
Man, it's tough. I think it's the Thunder's year. I think the Thunder, when you combine their how good they are now, they were at the top of the conference last year in the regular season, and the amount of assets that they have at their disposal, if they are close enough and they decide to push chips into the middle of the table, they did. Leigh, they somehow were able to get Alex Caruso and Isaiah Hartenstein without giving up a first-round pick.
Yeah.
And they have all of the first-round picks.
Yeah. Well, they've lost Hartenstein, though, for a few weeks here. Yeah. So that'll be a blow. But, assuming he recovers, he'll be fine come playoff time, and they can probably, withstand that short time. But, yeah, Caruso's massive for them. That's
unbelievable.
That's huge.
I'm so angry.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Getting him for nothing. Like, they gave up Josh Giddey, who...
And that was it, yeah.
He shows some interesting flashes here and there, and I don't know. I don't know nobody ever knows what the Bulls are doing, but the Thunder getting Caruso for 0 draft capital basically is one of the more befuddling. It's the kind of trade that you would have read about in like the 70s that would lead to a rule that would stop an owner from doing something so dumb again. Like, the Stepien rule, like that happened because the Lakers got James Worthy. Like, I feel like that trade would be like a Arturas Karnisovas rule moving forward. It's like you're not allowed to trade with the Bulls anymore. They're too dumb to help themselves.
That one just still doesn't make sense there, Yeah. And the Lakers wouldn't pay him $5 million to keep him. Is that right? That was about that, wasn't it?
It was like 9 or so.
Yeah.
He was willing to take a little bit less over the entirety of the contract. He would have been paid a little bit more than the Bulls gave him, but it would have been on a 2-year deal. But they chose, one, they didn't have to choose. They chose Taylor Horton Tucker over Caruso when they didn't have to choose. They could have just kept both.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, the worst summer that the Lakers have ever had as an organization.
Yeah.
All right. That is going to do it here on that note, on that cheery note, for this episode here of the Basketball Passport Pod. Hit us with your questions at the super nice and easy email to remember, basketballpassportpod@gmail.com.
Hey, we got one.
We did.
We got one. We got a legit email in there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Where is my email here?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got to add it to my computer then.
Yeah, man. Crazy. Yeah.
I didn't see it. Do you
Shout
want
out to Nicholas Poe. Yep.
All right. Here it is.
Yeah.
All right, here it is.
Yeah.
Nick Poe.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm an absolute basketball sicko who nerds out on all things EuroLeague. Growing up, I loved watching the Blazers and Sonics in the 90s. I was amazed by Euros like Detlef and Drazen. Now I love Giannis and all the new stars. I was wondering if you'll speak on what you learned on your travels in regard to the European system. Who was the player who went abroad and said that EuroLeague is like a more systemic league than the NBA? I'm blanking on his name. But here in the US, AAU is a disaster, and my kids have to pay hundreds a month to play club soccer. But European teams to have a state-funded system and a club-funded system. I would love to hear your discussion on that. Love the show. Let's make room for that on the next episode.
Let's do it. Let's start with the mailbag.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely will. Nick, thank you very much for the email. Like the super nice and easy to remember email that we provided for you.
That's what happens if you send us an email. We open the next show with your email. That's
how well, until that super easy to remember email becomes really, really difficult to answer every time. But Leigh, this has been an absolute blast. I can't wait to get this NBA season going, and I can't wait to talk to you again on Thursday. So until then, everybody, safe travels, enjoy the basketball, and we will talk to you on Thursday.